Welcome to today's webinar, our business risk review for September. Great that we get to do this on a monthly basis now, and thank you to everyone who has joined us. Very quickly, a little bit about CreditorWatch. We are Australia's leading and of course most innovative credit reporting bureau, used by over 50,000 customers, companies across Australia to better manage their credit risk. We have a number of products here, and I've got a better slide for you, a new slide that I'm going to start using instead of that previous one, to sort of give you a better understanding of how CreditorWatch's products fit into the customer life cycle, from that acquisition, customer onboarding piece through assessment, analysis, and of course what we love to do as well is automation. We're able to automate and integrate most of our products across the board with your CRM or decisioning platform, whatever it is that you might have requirements for. CreditorWatch can assist with that automation and integration piece. So what is the business risk review? So we've dropped the S, we've dropped small, it's now our business risk review, rather than just looking at small business. That forms still a big part of the data that we're collecting and the data that we're reporting on, the businesses that we're reporting on, but we are reporting on businesses of all sizes, from sole traders all the way up to big four banks. So we're aggregating a huge amount of data. It's got 26 sources in here. It's actually increased now to about 50 plus, but that is looking at various sources, including government, private and public, courts, information coming from our 50,000 plus customers, ASIC obviously forming a big part of that, as well as we look at administrations that are taking place. That is certainly sort of key number that everyone is looking at the moment. Some key highlights here, another new slide for those of you who regularly join in, just highlighting some of the numbers that really jump out. So 50,000 plus customers, of that 90% of them use CreditorWatch exclusively. So why is that important? It means that the data that we're accessing and able to report on and share with you is actually not able to be captured or reported on or viewed by any other reporting bureau or database that you might be utilizing from a credit risk perspective. So really unique information makes it very, very obviously valuable to suppliers, credit managers, creditors like yourselves. The other big one here, 10 million lines of trade coming in from Xero, MYOB, and age trial balances that get uploaded on a monthly basis for ATBs, and Xero and MYOB are submitted. We're able to pull receivables on a 5-minute cycle from those sources as well. So let's get straight into it. What have we seen looking at September, which has just gone by? Some notable changes here. So what we've seen is a 23% increase in the number of defaults that have been registered in September versus August. It's, I think, on record for this year, the first increase that we've seen during COVID times. We've been expecting this to come. I think I've been saying, we thought June would be when we start to see defaults increase, but that June period came, July, August. It's only just now that we're starting to see defaults start to be registered more often and more consistently by CreditorWatch customers. Now, the reason we saw a big dip earlier on is Aussies tend to be quite sympathetic to people, to businesses that are struggling. Most people went, great, we're going to take our time here. We're going to give our debtors every opportunity to start paying their bills. Eventually, we knew that would come to an end, because we know that there's going to be a build-up of defaults due to the fact that we're in the middle of a global pandemic and a recession in the country. There's also plenty of businesses out there that are doing it tough and unfortunately won't be able to make their repayments, but there's also businesses out there who putting their head in the sand, not taking calls from creditors, not responding to emails, not paying their bills, and as a result, we were always going to see an increase in defaults. And I already know that October is on track to have another increase in defaults on September as well. So this was not unexpected. It probably has just taken a little bit longer to take place than anticipated. We know that with October, there's a lot more means testing coming from banks and lenders. JobKeeper as well is being more means tested. The dollar figure coming from JobKeeper and also JobSeeker has been reduced, so there's less money pumping through the supply chain, through the economy. That's going to have effect on most likely on all businesses. So I would assume that we start to see an increase in payment defaults, which has started, but also ultimately administrations as well. If we compare September 2019 to 2020, so the 2020 is still significantly below where 2019 was, 37.5% below. So despite the sizable increase, we're still well below where we were last year. So we will keep an eye on that and obviously keep reporting on that particular figure. So looking at trade payment times, how companies within certain industries are paying their bills. Now we know that trade payment indicators, trade payment rhythms are the leading indicator of oncoming delinquency, default, cash flow issues. If a company is struggling to pay their bills, we know that as a result of that, we're likely to see payment defaults, court actions, and if they can't get their act together or they're really struggling, ultimately they're going to end up in administration or liquidation. So the best performing industries, looking at September, mining, which is no surprise, improved again from August, and is significantly down on September 2019 as well. Information, media and telecommunications, 14 days, which is great timing, great payment timing cycle for that particular industry. And as we know, ag, forestry and fishery, they've been doing quite well through this pandemic as well, and it's continued to improve. Of course, still big increases if you compare it to September 2019 for those two secondary industries there. The most impacted ones, still sort of leading the way, transport, postal and warehousing, despite the fact that there is this e-commerce boom. You know, there are specific businesses within that industry that are really doing it tough, and the days overdue, they're 90 days, so very, very tough. No change from August. Admin and support services, a lot of those outsourced admin and support services have been cut by businesses, and they've brought it in-house, so they've stopped doing it altogether. So as a result of that, there's a lot of pressure on those businesses sitting in that industry. And of course, as we know, finance and insurance services, plenty of deferments there, but also plenty of companies who will now be forced to start paying their bills back, or they're being told by their lenders, we're going to close this account down because we don't see you having a future business going forward. Got a nice slide here that's just comparing all industries across the board, so you'll be able to have a look at that and get a better understanding of where your industry sits. Just a few other ones that I just wanted to pull out here that I've got notes on. Retail and accommodation and food services, they actually saw improvements in September versus August of this year, which is really, really positive. And I think that for me is a really good indicator of sort of business confidence and sentiment there. We're starting to see, if we take Victoria out of it, of course, and you know, thoughts definitely with our Victorian friends and family down there. You know, you saw on the front of the AFR, the Treasurer was out in Bondi. It was busy. People are getting back to, you know, eating out, getting their coffees, and that foot traffic is really important for obviously retail, accommodation, and food services. So both of those industries have seen reductions of 6 and 7 days respectively, which is really positive. Manufacturing, which had been performing quite well and still is performing quite well if you consider where they were, and the fact that, you know, everyone thought manufacturing in Australia was dead. They had a bit of an uptick of 4 days, but still sitting at that 33-day mark, which, to be honest, if most of you know out there, if you can get paid within 30 days, you are doing quite well. So looking at court actions now, court actions, obviously the courts are either still closed or severely hampered in terms of the volumes that they can push through as a result of social distancing and COVID restrictions. Comparing September 2019 to 2020, we've still got 25% down in New South Wales, similar in Queensland. No surprises there. 50 odd percent down in Vic, as there'd be almost complete shutdowns there. WA, there has been an increase though, which is quite interesting, but that's probably indicative of the fact that WA itself is certainly getting back to normal in terms of people getting around, a lack of COVID infections, transactions over there. So that's quite positive to see, that they are sort of getting back into a normal rhythm over there. And I've spoken about the multi sort of speed economy with WA and Queensland sort of sitting at the top, Victoria, SA in the middle, New South Wales and sort of South Australia sitting in the middle, and then of course Victoria down the bottom as they really struggle with their second wave and extended lockdown that they are in. Just looking at the analysis of state-based external administrations, New South Wales, look, they are the biggest state. No surprises that they are out in front, and Vic and Queensland following behind. What is interesting though is Victoria recorded a 23% increase in administrations compared to August. So no surprise there that they've really been hampered by the second lockdown, second wave, and that's starting to have a significant effect on administrations in that state. Queensland as well have seen 24% increase, which is quite big if you consider that they should be in a fairly healthy sort of position. Remembering the numbers themselves aren't huge, so there's only 80 odd administrations there, so you're talking about 20 odd that have increased. Sorry, less than that. Maths isn't very good. 15 odd additional ones, so it isn't a huge number by volume, but percentage wise it seems like quite a big increase. And I would be suggesting that businesses particularly reliant on both domestic and international tourism would certainly be the ones that are feeling the heat there. And that's not just hotels, but that's restaurants, bars, retail, anything that's sort of around those particular tourist hubs like Cairns, Port Douglas, even Sunshine and Gold Coast as well, would certainly be struggling. Not having that normal influx of tourist dollars, particularly from Asia as well. New South Wales had a very minor decrease, 1.6%. Having a look at administrations, again, we know that administrations are still significantly down on 2019, the same period. We're talking 47% there, even with a slight uptick in the number of administrations, which was about 11% versus August. We're still significantly down on where we were in 2019. Something else to talk about that I will just go back to from a industry point of view is 11 out of 19 industries actually saw an improvement in payment time, so a decrease in the days to get paid, which I think is a fantastic indicator of businesses getting back into a normal payment rhythm, understanding that they simply cannot just hibernate for months and months and months. They need to, this is the new normal, they need to just get into trading as best they can in these conditions. I also think that you're starting to see business confidence and sentiment improve, which is something that I would love to get your take on. So I'm going to throw in my poll question here, which is in September, did you find business confidence was increasing, decreasing, or neutral? Really good to get an understanding of what people are feeling at the moment. I would obviously be suggesting that it's not a perfect science doing a poll like this, because if you're in Victoria, it's certainly going to be very different to those that are in Queensland, WA, or even New South Wales. I think generally it will be good to get a feeling here, and the numbers are as I expected, which is good, and I will share them in about 10 seconds. A few more of you to vote if you can do that makes it very beneficial for us to sort of discuss. Okay, close the poll there. So sharing the results, give it a sec to get up here. We're seeing 45% increasing, 14 decreasing, and 41% neutral. So to pull a number out there, 86% found that September confidence was either neutral or increasing, which I think is certainly a big positive. Only a small percentage suggesting it is decreasing. I'm hopeful that when I run this again in October, we will see even more moving into that increasing bucket. So thank you for that. Where did we get to? So I just wanted to jump onto the website very quickly. For a more in-depth analysis and understanding of the numbers, you can jump onto the blog. I'm sure a link will be in the follow-up email that comes once we close down today's webinar. We've got plenty of other stats that you can go through, a little bit more detail, a few comments from myself, and also importantly from our chief economist, Harley Dale, who we brought on, I believe it was last month. So he's come in with some really good insights. Harley's been doing quite a bit in the media on behalf of CreditorWatch as well. So it's fantastic to get some insights from an expert and an actual economist rather than just from myself. Of course, we've got the numbers in there for days overdue across all the industries, and then a nice comparison to Q2 last quarter as well. So a fairly quick one today, a nice clean one. I think that from a numbers perspective, and also getting those poll results from you, it's great to see that there is an increase in confidence. People seem to be getting on with it. I think with Victoria almost out of their second lockdown, or at least starting to be, the freedom improved and the restrictions relaxed, that is certainly going to build confidence, not just in Victoria, but also in the rest of the country as well. And people will obviously start to be able to trade it with a little bit more confidence with Victorian businesses. And of course, supply chains will be opened up a little bit more and less affected. So I'm really hopeful that we start to see some other positive signs in October. I still think that, despite the positive signs that we're seeing, administrations are still likely to either, remain at this sort of level or increase. So will payment defaults. But the fact is we have, sort of 6 months worth of record low numbers that really were almost a synthetic version of the true nature of, what we find ourselves in. Which is, of course, a recession. So they almost need to be worked through the system. So I would suggest that, if we see an increase in payment defaults and administrations, I'm hopeful that that is offset by payment times improving and decreasing across most industries. JobKeeper, JobSeeker payments, as I mentioned, have come down for starting in October. So it'll be a key to watch how that reduction in government spend flows through the economy and whether that makes any changes. Though in saying that, there's been a huge sort of support package put together by the government that we saw in the budget last week. A lot being done to create jobs and, of course, save businesses where possible. Not all of them are going to be saved, as harsh as that sounds. Unfortunately, that is the reality of a recession and a global pandemic, and we're certainly not over with it yet. The other big one is the safe harbour insolvency legislation. Safe harbour provisions in place until the end of December at this stage. Whether they will be extended or not, I don't think we will get a firm sort of view on that until we get to sort of late November, early December. Hopefully the government gives everyone plenty of time to adjust to whether it is going to be a hard stop at the end of December or it is going to be extended. As we know, businesses can't simply just push a button and get going again. They need to think about employment positions, but also importantly stock as well. It's not as easy as just turning the lights on and opening the door the next day and getting going. So lots still happening, lots to keep your eye on. We will be doing everything we can to update you with anything relevant, be it data and stats or legislative changes and government announcements. So that will be it today, and I appreciate you guys joining us again. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you soon.